How's it going, guys? Michael here. In this video we'll be recreating two of the main synth sounds found in How Long by Tove Lo in the series Euphoria. Both these sounds are great on their own, but when paired together it's just a magical combination. Let's get into it.
Let's start by recreating the sub bass. Turn off oscillator A and turn on the sub oscillator. Select the round rectangle and we're done. Just kidding. Now to create a sidechain or pumping effect, drag LFO1 onto the level knob and turn it all the way down while turning the modulation all the way up. Now hold Shift and click on the LFO to create an extra point. Create a bit of a tabletop by dragging the newly created point up to the right and drag the left point to around a quarter of the graph and drag down on the dot in the middle to create a concave shape. Now you should have a nice pumping effect going on in time with your song. Now let's head over to the Effects tab. Turn on Distortion and drag it to the top. Turn up the drive to around 80%. This will add some extra harmonics to the sound and make it more audible on smaller speakers such as smartphones. Now turn on the EQ and drag it below the distortion. Select the bell-shaped filter and set the frequency to 550 Hz. Q to 24%, and gain to +9 decibels. This will boost the mid-frequencies and help the bass to stand out. Now let's move on to the arpeggio sound. With a new instance of Serum, start by selecting Analog followed by Basic Shapes, and set the wavetable position to 5, selecting a wide pulse wave. Set the level to -18 decibels. Now under Oscillator B, select Analog followed by Matrixy C64. Set the unison to 2 and bring the detune down to 0.04. Now to give the sound some movement, set the rate of LFO1 to a half note. Then drag it onto Oscillator B's wavetable position knob and set the modulation amount to 25. Now let's set up our filter and envelope. Under Envelope 1, bring the sustain down to -10 decibels and increase the release to 250 milliseconds. Now drag Envelope 2 onto the cutoff knob and turn on the filter, selecting MG Low 18. Include Oscillator B and then drag the cutoff down to around 50 Hz. Holding Shift and Alt, click the modulation amount to choose unidirectional mode. That just means that the filter modulation will only travel in one direction. Now set the modulation amount to 42. Back under Envelope 2, set the attack to 18 milliseconds. This will open up the filter quickly. The decay to 132 milliseconds. This will close the filter fairly quickly. Sustain to 50% and release to 340 milliseconds. Now jump over to the Effects tab. Turn on Distortion and drag it to the top. Set the distortion type to sine fold and turn the drive and mix knob to 0. We will use macro knob 1 to control these later. Turn on the delay and drag it below the distortion. Turn down the feedback to 20%. Create a bandpass EQ by dragging down on the graph till the frequency is around 500 Hz and the Q is 0.8. Turn up the mix knob a bit to 38%. Now turn on the EQ and drag it below the delay. Select the bell-shaped filter on the left and set the frequency to 330 Hz, the Q to 15% and the gain to +6 decibels. On the right, set the frequency to 760 Hz, Q to 45% and gain to -4.5. This will boost the lower frequencies while taming the high frequencies. Lastly, for the effects, turn on the reverb and drag it below the EQ. Set the size to 13% and the decay to 0 to give us a quick reverb. Low cut to 50% to cut out the unnecessary bass, and the mix to 40%. Now, because the sound changes throughout the song, we need to be able to automate certain parameters, and for that we'll use macro knob 1. Drag macro knob 1 onto the drive knob on the distortion. Set the modulation amount to 6. Then the mix knob and set it to 50. Now drag it onto the delay mix knob and set it to -30. Then the reverb mix knob and set it to -18. Now back under the oscillator tab, drag the macro knob onto the cutoff knob and set it to 10. Lastly, drag it onto envelope 2's decay knob and set it to 25. And we're done. Now all you'd need to do to go from a long sustained note to a more plucky reverbed sound is turn macro knob 1.
As always, you can find a link to the presets in the description below, and if you enjoyed watching, please consider liking and subscribing to support the channel. Thanks again for watching, and hope to see you soon. Bye!